Howdy, welcome to another edition of the Shadow the Script podcast. I'm your host, Jared May, and I'm joined once again by the analyst, aka Ryan May. We're here to talk about the college football edition of Week 3, which included quite possibly and argumentatively the best college football weekend we have seen in a while, for many reasons. And we're going to go into we're going to highlight the morning game, the mid-afternoon game, and the night game that we all watch closely, whether you are a casual fan or a non-casual that really, dove into these college football games. We think these three are the most vital. Then we're going to pick a winner and a loser towards the end of the episode. But if you're not following us on the socials, you can find us at YouTube at Shatter the Script. You'll find the logo out there with all of our content and videos and segment clips, or for 60-second clips and things like that, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Shatter the Script. So getting right into it. Obviously, we'll start with the morning game and we'll trickle down to the night game. But I got to say, I got to pat myself on the back here in a second. But first, Ryan, welcome back to the show. How was your weekend of college football?
Much better than the NFL Week 1. We already talked about that. But yeah, I'm just glad we finally got some fireworks,
Not just that, but I think we all agreed that when we watched the college football this past Saturday and then watched Week 2 of NFL, we all went, ugh, like just kind of scoffed, like, man, this is just a much shittier product of football on Sundays than it is on Saturdays. And that's a Shadow the Script take for you. But yeah, we're going to do Clemson and Georgia Tech, which I can't remember. I think I just led you astray on this game. But then I ended up tweeting out that Georgia Tech would upset Clemson and told one of our good friends that Georgia Tech was also going to win. So I don't know why I told you Clemson was going to win and put them on the confidence scale that you had, but I hand up, but yeah, they ended up winning. But what did you see from that game? Let's talk about that one first.
Well, that's all right. I was going to pick Clemson anyway. I did feel like this was one of the games out of the slate this weekend. We're about to go through a couple. But this was one of the games that I think was throwing up a red flag for everybody going into it. Georgia Tech, if you're not a college football casual fan, if you're not somebody that just like tunes in on the weekends and you're actually paying attention, you know that Georgia Tech's kind of been on the come up for, I don't know, the last 2 or 3 years. Really ever since, hate to say it, Jared, ever since Haynes King got there, they've been kind of on the come up. Yeah. So, but what I got out of this game, and I told you I was texting you guys during the game, I'm like, I feel like Clemson's just trying to lose this game. It felt like they were just kind of jacking around all game. They were just making bad decisions, running plays behind the line of scrimmage when they didn't have a lot of time. It drove me nuts. You could tell over my text. I was so sick of watching Cade run the football. Cade Klubnik. He's just a wonky runner of the football. He's not like a, he's not nowhere close, but he's not like a Josh Allen. He's not even like Haynes King on the other side of the ball that,
right.
He's effective with his legs. He's a pocket passer. He's not a great runner of the football. And they kept doing these like RPO plays where they put him out in space and then expect him to do something. It was just kind of poor on what I thought. And then the last thought on Clemson is Dabo. I wonder how much this makes a difference, and I think it really does. Is Dabo Swinney's been really adamant about not using the transfer portal and not using NIL, which honestly, all credit to him. I get where he's coming from on that, but you're not going to be able to stay competitive if you're not just, keeping up with the times. It's kind of like that old saying, the time is now, old man. And that's kind of what's going on in front of Dabo Swinney's face as they're yelling at him in his face. And so, I just wonder how much that has a role to play. And I don't think Clemson's necessarily a terrible team, but, it's not the Clemson of old that we watched, with T-Law and Deshaun Watson back in, 2017, 2016, 2020 even. But then to flip it on the other side, I'll let you take over and give your thoughts on Clemson before I talk Georgia Tech.
Oh, do your thing. I got you. Oh, shoot, you're done. Okay.
Yeah, I was
like,
just
I'm going to say one more thing.
No, I'm saying like I'll talk Georgia Tech next, but I'll let you give your thoughts on
Oh,
Clemson.
gotcha. Yeah, with Clemson, I think Clemson on my end of the spectrum. This morning I'm waking up, I'm watching Dabo Swinney kind of have a crash out on his press conferences, just talking about, hey, they want me gone, they can get me gone. It's fine with me. The last 10 years, I've won this conference 8 out of the 10 years. I'd say that's pretty dang good. So a lot of attention has been brought to Dabo because, over the last 3 years, he's kind of been cornball university. And, you made a good point with the NIL structure and the transfer portal. They're not believers in that. They are in fact believers of name, image, and likeness of God, which I've joked about before. And that's something to be proud of, I guess, from a personal aspect. When it comes to winning games, you had some people to replace this offseason. Phil Maffa being obviously, I didn't think it was going to be a detrimental impact to the team, but it turned out to be because their run game has not been established through 3 games. If you keep having to use Cade Klubnik's legs, which, as you mentioned, he's not a very powerful.
Terrible idea.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea. And when I watch Oklahoma too with John Mateer, they're using his legs a ton in critical down scenarios, and I don't agree with that very much either. But when you look at Clemson,
runner of the ball, he's a way better runner of the football than Cade is. Cade, you can tell, is like anytime a quarterback's got a knee brace on his knee, I immediately think this guy cannot run
slide.
the football. Yeah. So
yeah,
not to get you off,
and you make a good point. I mean, it pays dividends too because he does a run to the left side of the hash and safety puts a helmet right on the football and it boom, fumble. Back in their own territory, Georgia gets a 2-possession lead. Georgia Tech gets a 2-possession lead, to clarify. But I look at the way that Clemson play. I really dislike their red zone play calling on offense. I didn't like the little lob up pass to their tight end that they had. I disagree with that. Like, that's the best play you can draw up in a critical down scenario. I do praise them for staying in a game that seemed like a trap game. And obviously, I guess to the casual fan, you would call that a trap game with Georgia Tech. But Georgia Tech's coach has done a phenomenal job with this program. They are in an ACC with, I believe they're in the ACC with, all those guys, Clemson's, Miami's, SMU's,
Florida State,
Florida State, who have kind of all been on the come up, and this year specifically been on a very large uprising in their conference. So I look at the game and I think to myself, they looked like they were trying to lose. It looked like they didn't play to win. And at the end of it, kind of scoffing at the media, going, why are you guys accusing me of not trying to win when that's in fact what happened? But Haynes King, from an Aggie standpoint, I look at somebody who transferred. This is quick and short and simple. I look at somebody who played under Jimbo, who was said to be a kind of a quarterback's coach, offensive coordinator, and completely fucked up his throwing motion and then made him a pocket passer. And we're all like, oh, Haynes King's terrible. I hand up again, twice this episode. I'm in the second row yelling, this dude sucks against App State. And then I go watch him at Georgia Tech. And what do they do with him? They make him a dual threat quarterback. They unleash his mechanics. And now he looks like a stud in college football. And then you texted me going, man, wouldn't you like to see Haynes King and Colin Klein's system at A&M? And I said, I sure would.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a tale of 2 stories right there. I mean, he's a dual threat maniac. I mean, he's very tough too. He takes a lot of hits because they don't run him it's not like read options. It's like that typical high school, college football, like QB counter where he is hitting the 5-hole like a running back.
Yeah.
It's not like your typical, it's not like what they were doing with Cade on the other side, where they're putting him in space, just trying to let him get around the corner, get 3 or 4 yards. It's a power style running the football at Georgia Tech. And he's just pretty solid. And, that's why I texted you saying, I can't imagine what he would look like in an A&M offense with Colin Klein. I mean, no wonder he left. He was getting completely misused. And, I mean, he was a great quarterback coming out of high school because he played at, if I'm not mistaken, he played at Longview. He was the number 1 Texas quarterback. And we all know how people feel about Texas cornerbacks. So, I mean, shout out Haynes King. He found a place that actually liked his style of football, and it's working out a lot for him. I mean, it was on the come up last year too. So
Yeah. We'll flip to the Georgia Tech side. I don't know if you want to cover anything more on their side about how they played. But for me, like the quick points, where since last year, watching them in Dublin, I believe they played in Dublin the first game of 2024, and they upset somebody. I think it was Florida State. And the coach for Georgia Tech comes out and he's like, "Run the football. That's what we do here. We run the ball and we control the clock, and we." That's not common in college football to control the pace of the game, but numbing a defense down with a long strided quarterback and Haynes King and their running back, I got it right here actually. Their running back I know his name. Yeah, it's Jamal Haynes. Jamal Haynes, who has been pretty solid over the last 2 years, it numbs the defense down. And a defense like Clemson isn't one to just kind of skip over, obviously. And they did a hell of a job. They controlled the game. They controlled their lead. When they lost the lead, they regained it pretty easily and did the things they needed to do to win the game and executed on all fronts. And won, honestly, all three facets of the game, which wins you the football game, by the way. If you win it 2 out of the 3, as Coach Harvey used to say, you're going to win. You're going to win the football game most likely. So
2 out of 3 phases.
Hats off to them.
Yeah, I was just going to add the last thing. I know I keep entering this. Cade had 17 carries for 62 yards. He was the top carrier of the football for Clemson. To give you a flip side of that, Haynes King had 25 carries for 100 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that's a running back stack. That's nuts. But anyway, yeah, we can move forward. I just not shocked by that loss from Clemson, honestly. The last thing I'll say about Georgia Tech is they played to win that game. And this is just, it sounds so dumb, but it's true. They played to win that game, and they went in expecting to win that game. And Clemson, it looked like, played to lose that game and expected and halfway didn't care that they lost that game. Especially now, like you're saying, coming out with all the media reports. It's like Dabo's saying Dabo things, and it's kind of odd. But anyway, we can move on.
Yeah, a couple other highlights from the morning slot. You had Alabama beating the tar out of Wisconsin, Oklahoma playing well against against Temple, and then, Oregon doing their thing. So, but into the mid-afternoon slate, we had college game days, Tennessee hosting Georgia. And we all talked about, me and the medical guy talked about last week, who is Jose Aguilar? Is he going to step up for Tennessee? Did Tennessee make the right decision? And it had looked after 2 weeks that watching Nico Amaliva at UCLA struggling, being blown out by teams they shouldn't get blown out by. They're 0-3, I believe, now. And then Jose Aguilar with 2 very strong starts. And he started this game versus Georgia on fire. On fire. I think it was 13 of 13 for 201 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. And we're like, well, excuse me? Like, against Georgia's defense, to put 21 points up in the first quarter. And so from there, I think it's a good point to start, or a good starting point to evaluate both these teams, because it was 21-7 near the end of the first quarter, at the start of the second quarter, somewhere in there, to where we go, Georgia's in big time trouble. So from there, how did you see the game? How did you like Georgia's ability to kind of stay in the game, stay within themselves, take it one drive at a time, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to Joey's run. First off, that was a great decision by Tennessee, not letting Nico kind of dictate how their season was going to go this year, and just moving on and going to get Joey. And he absolutely balled. So now that it's 21-7, I was telling you guys over the phone, Georgia has got to keep this offense off the field, because I told you, like I was saying on the phone, these guys were moving at the fastest pace I think I've seen since Marcus Mariota at Oregon. I mean, it was snap ball, play down, line up, motion, snap ball. I mean, it was bam, 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 bam. And I mean, you could just tell that it was like Georgia caught a flashbang in the face and was just trying to like wake up and get back on track and figure out where we're at and who's got this guy. I mean, it was just a constant barrage of hellfire from Tennessee's offense. I mean, the crowd was right behind him. You could just tell that they were just stepping on the gas, not looking back. But the way that Georgia stayed in this game was when they got the ball on offense, they took their time. And they were like, you know what? We're going to run the football. We're not going to let the score dictate that we have to throw the playbook out. So, and that just shows to me that Georgia's a little bit more of a mature team than some of the other teams we would have seen, because there's a lot of teams that would have gotten that scenario and would have said, throw the playbook over your shoulder and we're getting in a shootout, pull the pistols out, let's just throw the football. And that's not what Georgia did. They buckled down and they ran the football to kind of slow down Tennessee, and that's how they ended up winning. Granted, the score was 44-41. That is a shootout. But this could have gone way south for Georgia early in the game, and it didn't. So they kind of buckled down, realized, got grounded again, and just stuck to their guns. And I got to say, Gunnar Stockton, man, that is not what I expected. I thought he was the best quarterback of the weekend. I mean...
Yeah. Considering the circumstances, for sure.
Yeah, one of the best quarterbacks of the weekend. I think Joey played just as good for Tennessee, but Gunnar Stockton, I had his stat line pulled up earlier. Gunnar was 23 of 31, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, added 38 yards on the ground, so he had 3 total touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah,
that's a great game. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the game. I thought Tennessee kind of came out guns blazing, and Georgia found a way to put them on ice for a little bit just to catch up in the game, and then it was bam, 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 bam after that. So I picked Georgia in this game, but I would not have been shocked by Tennessee. But I mean, it goes back to that
same
stat.
here.
Georgia's had their ticket for 9 straight games now, I think. So that's Greg Heupel's got to figure out how to get over that hump.
Yeah, and watching this game, you were like, "This is it." Heupel's going to do it. And the second quarter of this football game was the most critical part of the game.
I agree.
And I remember tweeting out, and I was like, Georgia, and whoever it reached out to, it started to get, I guess, more views than typical, and maybe because it was live tweeting. But I'm talking about, hey, Georgia needs to keep this offense off the field, whatever they can do. They got to bring this, they got to score within this time frame, or keep the drive past this till the end of the first quarter. I remember they had the ball within like 2 minutes till the first quarter ended, and they were down 3 scores or something, or 2. And I was like, hey, they got to take this into the quarter. They have to give the defense a break. And so they converted, I think, a third or a fourth down late in the first. Enters into the second quarter. Perfect. Then they go down and score that drive. I was like, here we go. That's what they needed to do. Then they score a field goal later in that second quarter to and prevent Tennessee from scoring. So that break and the field goal was a catalyst for the second half to say, all right, we got that break. We held them scoreless in the second quarter. They bit us in half in the first quarter. Now we get a whole second half to play, and it's a 4-point ball game. And I don't think people realize how important the point you made was a lot of coordinators, a lot of people, when they're down 21-7, if they're inexperienced in that atmosphere, like you said, that playbook is out the window. We are throwing guns a-blazing. And you look at their rushing attempts in the box score. I know the box score doesn't tell us how the game, but you had 12 rushes from Bowens. You had 13 from Stockton. You had 14 from Frazier, another 5 from Phillips, another 7 from McCray. They were running the football. They were trying to manage the game as best they could to prevent Tennessee from having the football, and all that to get them to the fourth quarter. And then from that point, when the fourth quarter happened, I remember I took like a bathroom break where I was at. Fireworks. I came back and I was like, how in the world did it get to 35-32 or whatever? So in the fourth quarter, totally acceptable to go guns blazing. Let's go. Like we're right here. We're within a score. It's time to light this field up with some fireworks. And that's exactly what happened. And then granted, the last thing I'll say is that Tennessee had the opportunity to win this game. Obviously they had a makeable field goal. The dude shanked it wide right. And that stuff happens. It's college football, but at home, when you need to make that field goal, I could totally understand it away. But at home, I find that unacceptable as a coach. I would say that cost us the game. And I wouldn't blame it on the defense giving up as many points as they did. It is purely a fact of you have to, when you have the opportunities to win against a team like Georgia who climbed their way back in the game, you have to make the field goals and execute on the opportunities that were given to you. That's not what happened. And unfortunately, that's something that doesn't really necessarily fall back on Heupel in terms of that more falls back on the team, on the player. And I hate to be a hard ass on the kicker, but then you get into overtime and you completely stall out on offense, and then Georgia just wipes the floor clean, and you're like, ball game, and that is why I predicted Georgia to win, just like you did. But that is why I said at the beginning of the year, and it's really difficult to forecast a year, but I said Georgia will be the most consistent team that's flying under the radar in the SEC, that people are like, oh, it's Gunnar Stockton. We saw him last year in the playoffs. We're going to disregard him. But I think they're going to be the leaders in the SEC.
Yeah.
They will play somebody else in Georgia.
Yeah, they're just a very solid team. That's what I was going to say too. Just to add on to everything you said, is their defense every year just is nuts to me. I mean, their front defensive line is giants amongst men. It's insane. I will say their secondary has taken a dip a little bit than years past, but that they're just still. They just look so much bigger sometimes than other teams they play, and I don't know if it's like the battle red that they wear, the red uniforms, but I don't know. They always look bigger. And also, Zakiah Branch or whatever his name is, that dude is an animal. That dude is raw. He's fast as lightning. But anyway.
Yeah. 100%. But yeah, we'll see how the Tennessee is definitely for real, in my opinion. I think that's going to be a fun team to watch.
They're a contender too. I mean, the SEC, they're going to be a contender.
That might be candidate for game of the year. However, one had close to the game of the year candidacy later that evening, which is the Fighting Texas A&M Aggies. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I just got chills down my spine just talking about it. And watching the game, I'm like, hey, we were talking to my friends and things like that. I said, look, TikTok saw it first. This is a game that we did not, I say we, that A&M did not, we just don't expect to win those games. If you're a fan, we watch it. It was the same with Sumlin, same with Jimbo, kind of the same with Elko last year. You're like, the same things kind of happen over and over again, but we still are on the upside with Elko. And we haven't beat a ranked opponent on the road in, I think, 14 seasons or 14 opportunities. And that's a bad drought. And so to watch this game, punt block begin the game, but to end up winning this thing on a buzzer beater, that might be the reason why this episode is delayed, because I was sick. I don't know. It might have been yelling and drinking and doing those things. I completely almost lost my voice the next day. But that's just my Aggie rant in a nutshell. That is quite literally, it's the only game I got wrong out of my key projections. And I'm okay with that. Third hand up. That is, they completely surprised me. I understand that more so or less they shouldn't have won that game, but I was very, very impressed with the offense's response through and through. First quarter to fourth quarter, Marcel Reed, a lot of shot plays. But what did you see from the game? What were your takeaways? I know towards late in the game they might have missed a holding call. I know that the ground game for Notre Dame was exceptional versus A&M's defensive line. But what were some of the things that you saw?
Well, for one, I've been preaching, I think, on this podcast for a while that Colin Klein, last year, people were coming for Colin Klein's head, and I kept saying that would be a major mistake. Last year, Marcel Reed and Connor Weigman kept going in and out, and it's really hard for an OC to do anything with that. Well, now that they're fully committed to Marcel Reed, he looked phenomenal in this game, in my opinion. He was 17 of 37, 360 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, adding 37 yards on the ground. Completion percentage was low, but throwing for 360 yards on 17 passes is nuts. And that leads me to my next point, which is this is the first team I've seen A&M have in a long time where they have weapons. And I'm talking weapons. That Craver guy, Mario Craver, is really, really good. And I'm a big fan of Concepcion too. I mean, Craver had 7 receptions, 207 yards, and a touchdown. But I mean, you also still have Le'Veon Moss. He had 3 touchdowns this game. I mean, offense is juiced, which is great for A&M because they haven't had that in a long time. And pairing Reed with Colin Klein is good. But flip side of the ball, the only concern I have is if Elko is going to be your coach, your defense is going to have to be better than that. The defense for A&M is just abysmal. That they're just really bad. That was my takeaway from it. I don't know if it's the secondary. I don't know if it's the play calls. I don't know if it was because they're away, but it's been like that for 2 or 3 weeks now. And what I like to see is kind of what Jacob pointed out, or one of y'all did, is Elko throwing a chair, like, and getting pissed off about it.
Yeah.
That's what I like to see, is like he knows that this needs to be fixed.
Giving me Chris Richard vibes.
Yeah. Flip the script though. Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love is that dude. Phenomenal. Is going to get drafted in the 1st or 2nd round, and he's going to be really good in the NFL. I don't really know. Yeah, I don't really know what to compare him to, but he's just a nuts back. I mean, he's really good. And then
he goes
Notre
aerial
Dame,
quite a bit, and it's impressive.
Yeah, and then Notre Dame. The other thing I'll say too is C.J. Carr for Notre Dame is a better quarterback than Riley Leonard, but it's very similar. I feel like he's limited in a bunch of areas. I was looking at the stats earlier. He was 20 of 32, 290 yards, touchdown, interception. But I mean, they just leaned on Love all game, and Love kind of torched A&M. But you got to be kicking yourself in the locker room this week if you're Notre Dame. I mean, losing because your special teams can't attempt a PAT, and then you let A&M go all the way down the field and let a blocking tight end moss your cornerback. That's got to be brutal for Notre Dame. So those were my thoughts from the game. I thought A&M looked really well. I also thought Notre Dame kind of surprised me. This game went nowhere near what I thought it was going to be. I thought this game was going to be really low scoring, but I mean, it was an absolute firework game from first snap to last snap. I mean, literally. So,
yeah, and I think I'll start on the Notre Dame side. I mean, Jadarian Price looked almost more impressive than Jeremiah Love. But if you watch the game, Jeremiah Love was the absolutely like the bulldozing bell cow running back in this game. I mean, I think they went into Wildcat 6 or 7 different times in critical down scenarios, depending on Jeremiah Love, to get the first down. And on Marcus Freeman's side, I mean, well done in terms of knowing that, well, we got 2 game films of A&M just allowing all these big-time shot plays on the ground. We're going to run the football, and thankfully that's our strength at Notre Dame is we're going to run the football down your throat with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, and then we're going to play action pass and quick draw with C.J. Carr, our young quarterback, a lot like they did last year with Riley Leonard. And it is an interesting testimony with Notre Dame this season being 0-2, still being a ranked football team at number 24 entering week 4. Their next 2 opponents that are their hardest opponents the rest of the year are Arkansas and USC. That's their hardest opponents. So the 2 biggest opponents that they played this year, being A&M and Miami, they lost to both of those by a combined 4 points. Now you can argue that's not terrible, but at the same time, we hold other teams accountable for losing to ranked teams when they should be in contention. So I disagree with a team being 0-2 and ranked. I think that's quite ridiculous. I think they look at the rest of their schedule and go, okay, they can win 10 more games. That's great. But, you look at their other 10 games, I don't find it all that. Sure, it's impressive a little bit, but I don't know. I'm not a big believer in that. I think when you have the opportunity to play a ranked opponent and you lose both those times, then you shouldn't be a ranked team. If you can't beat ranked teams, you should not be a ranked team. Simple. On the other side, with Texas A&M, you talked about it. I think as an offense, A&M has to find a way to create somewhat methodical drives, some form of a script that gets you from A to B into the end zone where it's not like, oh, we're going to go A to Z, get this big shot play. I mean, those are great, but you can't depend on big shot plays to be there all the time when you enter the SEC. So there has to be something sustainable. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I think it does. But a lot of this game was, Craver having those miraculous down the sideline touchdowns. And then you look at some of the plays that were even called back. Especially the kick return touchdown to win the football game at the end, which, I was like, that was my moment where I was like, okay, it's over. But luckily they end up driving down the field and scoring on the buzzer beater. And then additionally, like I always say, the box score doesn't show the game. When you watch the football game, the first drive, we stalled out, punt block, 7-0 instantly for Notre Dame. A&M left about 13 to 17 points on the field that were either there was a punt inside our own 5 that turned out to be a touchdown for Notre Dame, which put them at the 30-yard line to start. So eliminating those in future games, that's a learning lesson. I think that'll be something that's essential down the road when they get to the SEC schedule. But all for naught, a phenomenal performance on the offensive side, really counteracting the defensive side of the football for A&M and picking up for their lack of defensive interior, which is going to be a big concern. But at the end of the day, I think that covers most of what we got for the college football spectrum. Did you have a winner or a loser to highlight additionally before we wrap up today's episode?
Yeah, I think the winner of the weekend for me is Georgia Tech. I thought that was a major win for them. And then, we've already gone through all that. But the other one that I thought was pretty nice was Miami. I think this Miami team is much better than last year's with Cam Ward. Carson Beck's playing really well, and that defense is actually really good. They've got a nasty front seven. I can't remember the guy's name, but he kind of was a one-man wrecking crew against Notre Dame. Had the brace, long. I think it was number 4. But I think the loser that got swept under the rug, and the only reason we know about it is because Turner and Chad, was UT. We need to have a conversation about UT and about Arch Manning. That flag is slowly starting to raise, and a lot of questions are being asked. Is he hurt? Is he just ass? Or is, what's the answer? And Sark is just being really, kind of almost offensive about it. And you can't go out there and you can't do that to UTEP and just brush it off, because he played terrible. He really played terrible. And on top of that, they are playing the Sam Houston State Bearcats, and I have 2 or 3 friends at work that are Longhorns, and they were all like, "Oh, y'all better watch out." And I was like, "Should I?" I mean, in years past,
it's going to be a game.
It's in years past, I would say Sam Houston had some minuscule amount of chance playing UT. This year, they're terrible. But I'm kind of joking with them, have you been watching Arch? He looks really bad, and I don't know what the issue is. So they either need to figure out what the issue is, or they need to bench him and reevaluate. But you can't do that if you're Sark, because the UT fans have put him on the idol stand for the last 2.5 years, saying that
we warned him against.
So anyway,
that's why we warned you can't crown a king that's never had the throne. It just doesn't work that way anymore.
You can't take his one data set of playing Colorado State and be like, see how good he was. The other mitigant that I'll give for the only thing that I can say that is in his favor is he did lose Isaiah Bond, he did lose Matthew Golden, he did lose Gunnar Helm, and he did lose Jaden Blue. That's pretty huge flip on offense. But you've been there for 2.5 years. Or 2 years, however long he's been. I think this is his 3rd year there, right?
Yeah, I think it's his 3rd.
So anyway, that's my loser.
Time to get it going. Yeah, I agree. My winner is Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss with a backup quarterback went in and did its job against. Honestly,
I almost picked Ole Miss. That's a good pick.
Yeah, because Arkansas is no slouch this year. They have a very tough schedule. Their record won't reflect how I think under the radar they are as an SEC football team with Taylor Green. And it was a shootout, but without Austin Simmons, you were looking at like a transfer from like a JUCO, I believe, in Mississippi, and it's like, well, what are they going to do? And he kind of ran all over them on the ground. So props to Lane Kiffin, schematically going against Arkansas there and getting the dub. And then my loser for the week is South Carolina. Vanderbilt crushed them, which was very unexpected. We thought it was going to be a close game. Pavia had a strong outing. Lenore Sellers did not, and that's something that was unexpected for South Carolina. They're going to have to really get back on track with who we thought was a Heisman favorite in South Carolina. So, granted, they're playing Pavia, who's in his 17th year of college football, and looking for his 18th. But we'll see how that transpires. But
yeah, that definitely. Just to add to that, that definitely says a lot about South Carolina. That's concerning. I think Vanderbilt's better than some people give them credit for, but South Carolina aspirations this year were like SEC championship level, I would argue, somewhere in that, with Lenoris being at the quarterback. But anyway,
yeah,
that's a good loser pick. I didn't even think about that one.
Yeah, I mean, one could argue Florida as well, but
oh my
I think
God,
we know what Florida is now.
I almost picked Florida too, but
I think we know what Florida is.
Yeah, they need to fire that. He's the worst coach in the SEC. Billy Napier, he's the worst coach in the SEC.
They got a Netflix special.
I mean,
it's Graham Mertz, 6-year quarterback last year. Yeah.
Yeah, how can you take DJ Lagway and have 5 interceptions? If you watch that game, he would throw 5 interceptions, but then he would have like 3 or 4 plays where it was like, oh my God, that was an amazing play. Anyway, it's crazy.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'm sure they'll beat Texas. Who knows?
But per Brian Kelly, they won the game, Jared. Did you see that interview? They won the game.
We won the game. What are these questions? Why are you guys asking me hard questions? These are all my donors. Anyway. All right, well, that wraps up our college football episode. You can follow us at the socials at Shatter the Script. And, of course, every week, I know this is a day late, but every Tuesday you'll find our college football episodes available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Available and that way on your way to work and your way back from work, you can catch up on all the latest and greatest nooks and crannies of college football and escaping the mainstream media outlets and using us as a source for authenticity. So, appreciate you guys, and we'll see y'all on the next go round. Giga Maggies, baby.